So parallax occlusion mapping, we use it in games a lot, and normal mapping on surfaces to make our surfaces look more complex. When you're creating a game in 3D, the normal mapping sometimes isn't enough to make it's quite easy to see that the surface looks quite flat. So using parallax occlusion mapping really sort of punches out a surface a lot better and sort of keeps that illusion a lot tighter. So I would suggest using parallax occlusion mapping a lot more when you're rendering games in 3D. Camera cuts. Okay, so that's an important one as well. So if you're doing a lot of snappy camera cuts, that can be quite tricky. That's going to be quite a tricky one because you can make the viewer or the player feel a little bit sick if you're doing a lot of quick camera cuts throughout the game. The best trick to, if you are doing camera cuts, is that if per camera cut you want to be at the same position and screen depth, because when you're going from camera cut to camera cut, the viewer has to have time to adjust to understand, so the brain can understand where in depth you're actually at. So if you're jumping to a bunch of different camera cuts quickly at different depths, you're going to make the player feel a bit sick. So that's something to avoid. There's lots of other visual considerations. I couldn't list them all because we do want to get you guys up and actually seeing the game so that you know what we're really talking about. But my last point here is really the reason why I believe, or we believe, 3D is so cool, and that's immersion. That's the reason why we all make games these days. That's the reason, that's the satisfaction that we get when the player is fully immersed in the environment, and we believe that creating games in 3D, it creates that next generation, that next step of immersion for our gaming. One of our guys back in the studio said, believe in 3D because it allows us to see objects and not images, and that's a really good saying because it's that type of thing that's going to make our games look more immersive and more fun to play. So with that, I will pass it back over to Andrew.
Thank you very much, Alan. So I have to say, anyone who's seen our demos, as soon as they've seen them in 3D and you put them back to 2D, they go, oh, it just seems so disappointingly flat. And yet, it looks a really good 2D game. But when you've seen it in 3D, you don't want to go back. I'm sure it'll be the same if you watched TV in 1080p and then went back to an old TV. We're going to give you a chance to play the game, but please do all play the games here. So, we've got to think about the marketing considerations because we've got a game here that's nearly finished that we could put out there. But there are some issues to do with marketing of a game that's in 3D. You have a current small user base because you are selling a PlayStation game and it does work on regular PlayStations, but there'll be obviously a lot of talks about the fact it's 3D. And only those people with 3D TVs are going to be able to see that. And we don't want backlash from people saying, well, I couldn't see it. I tried my red blue glasses and it didn't work. Ironically, we can put animation in our game, but we don't want people seeing it in the old style. It's like, see it properly or not at all, because when you see it properly, it's nice. So we just have to educate the market to what TVs work and what TVs don't. I think there was the gimmickry that is being overcome by Hollywood making these cool 3D movies. So once you've seen Coraline, Monsters vs. Aliens, then people will know that there is a 3D out there that is more than just a gimmick. There is unfortunately the lack of standards in the marketplace. It's something that developers will have to deal with, but it is overcomable. We've overcome it. I'm sure other software companies, very capable people, I'm sure that you can do it. There's a lack of content at the moment because you actually go into stores and the stores aren't promoting 3D TVs. How can they? They can't show you that it's a 3D TV. One of the TV manufacturers that I showed the demo to is like, oh God, if we could have that in store, our TVs would just fly off the shelves, they'd be fantastic. But there's no content quite yet. But hopefully soon you will be able to go into stores and see Xboxes or PlayStations promoting these, just like you see the HD TVs underneath these screens at the moment. So, how do you advertise a 3D game? The last thing we want to see is anaglyph screenshots in magazines or on the web, because again, that's old. It destroys the colours, it's not very nice. I actually think that the answer here is the movie theatres. I think when you go to see films in the future in your 3D movie theaters, don't be surprised if you see adverts for 3D TVs and for 3D video games. It seems that the only way you can show people who don't actually have the technology yet. The availability of the glasses is a problem. They've actually sold more of these 3D ready TVs than they have pairs of glasses because there's not much content out there. Okay, some people do it on PC and I completely accept that, but it's a fairly small market. Your TV buying market is a lot bigger. So how do you get these glasses out there? Well, as soon as people start making lots of 3D games, then hopefully your Best Buys and your Fry's will feel ready to sell glasses, and the TV manufacturers will start selling glasses with the TVs. So, the other thing is, well, what games make good, what games make obvious content for 3D sort of content? Well, one is, if it's a game of a 3D movie, then shouldn't it be a 3D game? I mean, to me that makes sense. And then your marketing and stuff is done. It's true to the movie. Hey, what's the unique thing about the movie? It's 3D. Yeah, so is the game. And I think that's what people should be aiming for now. But of course, it will still be a regular 2D game for all those people that haven't yet bought those screens. It's the option that we've got that the film industry are going to find quite difficult to do. That is why there's a little bit of an issue. They want to be able to distribute movies, but be able to sort of turn them on and off. Something that wasn't in our slides, but it's kind of an interesting thing, is movies are all pre-filmed or pre-rendered, and they can't adjust the stereoscopic nature of it. So it has a sort of a single depth, or it has a way that it was filmed. Whereas within a game, we can adjust all those depths. We render everything in real time, so we can tune it much more, which I know is why there's a little bit of a slow take-up, because that's what they want to be able to do. They want to be able to produce their movies the way we do games. They have the advantage of time. We've got to do it real time. So, what will make 3D games happen? It's not a case anymore of if 3D in the home will happen. It's starting to happen, and it will happen. Hollywood is making a lot of 3D movies. They have an awful lot of money. The TV manufacturers have noticed this. That's why they're making 3D TVs. So it's just a case of when it comes out. Well, it takes a while to write games, so let's start writing the games now, because by the time you finish writing the game, they'll probably be here. It takes a while. So what we want the TV manufacturers to do is bring them out as standard, so that you're not paying a premium. And actually, that's exactly what's happened with the DLP TVs. You're not paying a premium for 3D, and soon the plasmas and the LCDs, they'll get to a point where you're not paying much of a premium. I mean, it's still going to be top end for the next couple of years, but boy, what a feature it is. We've obviously got to make sure that people see 3D games as not a gimmick, but something that's adding a real depth of immersion and a real reason to be 3D. Once people start to see it, as I want you to all see it, you'll realise why this is the future. So it's all about game perception. Hollywood will do most of it. It's up to game developers, us lot, to do the rest, I think. And you know what? 3D is the next generation. There's a confusion over what 3D, but I'm like, stereoscopic 3D, it is the next generation. I hear a lot of talk about like the PlayStation 4 or whatever, but it's like, maybe your next generation purchase is the next generation screen. Like to go up to this range of consoles, you need that HD TV rather than your old TV. I suspect that this is the thing that will drive TVs, and it does feel like next generation is here now when you play it. So, thank you very much. We were going to take questions, but we want people to play the game. We're going to be here, a couple of our guys are here, so we'll answer all your questions while you play the games. Please don't run off, because I don't want you saying you didn't see it. So, thank you very much.
Pre-render is this or real time? Big master glasses, right? Somebody want to play? Pre-render, yeah. check it out classic as well.
What do you think?
Well, our technology